Yes, so we continue. So you can actually see that it shows 12 volts there. It has automatically detected the battery bank that I've connected it to it. So if I had put a 24, it will show 24. But there are cases when you've put the controller on a 12 volt system and here it's showing 24. So in that case, you are supposed to enter the settings of this controller to make sure that you set the right parameter. Yeah, so now we'll navigate through the different parameters. So this was the home page, the home setup of the controller. This is what the controller will show. It will show the panel if it's during the day, and it will show the moon if it's during the night or there's no panel at all. Then it will show you the temperature, it will show you the battery voltage, it will show you the load and stuff like that. So it's showing you the load is at 0.4 volts because you're not drawing anything, 0.1 amps because you're not drawing anything. So now these are the three buttons that we need to play with for us to understand, to navigate through the controller and do the settings. So this is more of a next button. And then these two, they also work with this button to do enter. So the thing, if you simultaneously click this and this, you will what you're simply trying to do is to enter into a particular parameter so that you activate the settings. Then when you simultaneously press this and this upper button here, these two together, what you do is you are trying to set the parameter that you've set. So here, the upper one and the below part, you press them together to enter into a certain parameter, do your navigation or other setting, then press the upper one and the middle one simultaneously together to set the parameter. Then let's just see, if I press here, I can go through the different parameters of the controller. So I've pressed. So this is the panel side into the battery. So it's showing 0 because I haven't put any panel there. Then next, so this is the battery to the load. Okay, this is the battery to the load. Then I come here. Now here, this is where we start doing the settings. So here you can see the sun and the battery. So it simply shows voltage from the panel into the battery. So this is what we call float voltage. So how much I want to push into the battery bank. I don't want to overcharge the battery. I don't want to overcharge the battery. Where was that? Yeah, so this is here. I don't want to overcharge the batteries, so I need to set this parameter to protect the battery. So what I need to put here is called float charge. It's a float charge. Now when you look at the batteries, actually the batteries have this parameter there called float charge. So what we can do is, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's look at this battery. So float charge is also called cycle charge. So when you look at this battery, the cycle charge is there, which is 14.6 to 14.8. So I can actually set this parameter on the controller. So you want to check the float charge on your battery and then go on your controller and do the setting in accordance with the battery that you have, because these will be slightly different. So we'll come back to the controller here and do the float charge. So float charge is how much voltage you want to push into the battery from your solar panels. So now for you to set that, what you want to do is click on the upper button, then click on the below button, hold for a few seconds so you can see it's now active. So what you can see is that it gives you an option to be able to set the parameter. So I want to increase this. So for you to increase this parameter, you want to click on the upper button. So it's going up, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up. Sorry, this is not the float charge. So let's exit. Made a mistake. So for you to exit this parameter, what you want to do is click the upper button and then the middle button. Simultaneously hold until it stops blinking. Yeah, so I've set the parameter. So now we're going back to float charge because we want to set float charge. That was another parameter. I'll get back to it. So for float charge, you're supposed to see the sun and the battery. So this is float charge. So the sun and the battery. So this is how much you want to push from the panels into the battery. So press this button, the below button, hold for some few minutes until it starts blinking. Now I can set this parameter, so I can increase this voltage. I can go. So you also want to check the battery. What does the cycle voltage on the battery say? What's the float charge on the battery? So in that case, I think that was 14.8, I think. Yeah, so I set up to 14.8. Then to click this, the middle button simultaneously hold until it stops blinking. So we've actually set the float charge. So this is how much charge we want to enter into the battery from the panels. So we can click to the next parameter. Now here you can see there's a battery, and then there is also the load. So now this is called voltage disconnect or high voltage disconnect. What this means is that, see, if your battery bank has drained below a certain value, it will you want the controller to disconnect discharge from the battery bank, because you don't want to drain it further. Then when you begin charging the battery again, when the charge begins to increase on the battery, you want the controller to reconnect the load. So now this is the voltage that you set. So you can only say, if my voltage reaches 12 volts after charging, I want the controller to start giving output to the load. So that depends on how you want it to be. So you also want to set that parameter. So this is the parameter. It's called high voltage, low voltage reconnect. When the controller, at what voltage should the controller reconnect the load? So we're going to set this again. So we'll say we press the upper button and the lower button, hold for some seconds. So I want to say at least when the battery has reached let's say 12.3 volts, then the controller should be able to switch on the load. Okay, at least 12.3, then let it do so. So for me to set it, the upper button and the middle button, hold for some time until it stops blinking. So I've set that parameter, and then I'm going to the next parameter. So you can see this is an empty battery. So now this is the voltage from this is the voltage I want the controller to stop discharging the battery when it reaches a certain voltage. So when you're discharging the battery and you're not charging it, I want to protect the battery. So I'm saying if the voltage in the battery is 12 volts, controller, stop discharging the battery until the next day I charge. So that's what the parameter means. So what you do now there is you also want to set that parameter, and I would encourage minimum you put, let it be 11.8. You don't want to discharge your batteries to lower than that, because by then the batteries won't last for long. So we're going to set this to 11.8. So I hold this and the lower button together for some time. Then I can reduce this to 11.8. And then I can set this by holding the upper button and the middle button, so until it stops blinking. So what I've done here is, what I've told the controller is that when the battery voltage is 11.8 and below, please stop discharging the battery, because I don't want to over discharge the battery. So that's what we've done. Then the previous parameter was when the controller should now connect the load or allow discharging. That's what we did. So we moved to the next parameter. So we've done the float charge, we put it at 12, at 14. We've done when the controller should reconnect the load, then when the controller should cut the load. Then finally here it's a timer. You want this controller to work for 24 hours. So usually always make sure it's at 24 hours, because you want your system to operate within 24 hours. But if you want to change this, you also need to click the upper button, the lower button, and then simultaneously hold. So you can reduce that by clicking the lower button, or increase this by clicking the upper button. But what you want to do is the controller should be working for 24 hours. So once you set, you click the upper button, the middle button, simultaneously hold until it stops. So we go to the next parameter. Now this next parameter is the system voltage. So what you see here, the 00 simply means the controller is on automatic setting. What it means is that when you put this controller on a 12 volts system, it will automatically detect it. Like in this case, you can see it's written 12 volts, so it automatically knows that I've put it on a 12 volts battery bank. Yes, that is if it is on auto. Now for it to be on auto, you have to make sure that it has 00. But if you want to change this, you want the control, if you are sure that your controller will always be working on a 12 volts battery bank, then you need to change this to 01. So what you do, this upper button, the lower button, until it clicks, then increase to 01. So in this case, the controller will forever be working on a 12 volt system. So if you get this controller in this mode and put it on a 24 volt system, it will not detect at all. It will just work as if it's a 12 volt system, but you don't want that to happen. That's why I'm saying only if you are sure that it's going to be working on a 12 volt system, then you can do the parameter in that way. But it's better to always put it on auto, which is 00. So when you want to change, do that. So if I do 2 there, then it means it will always work on 24 volt system. But if I reduce it to 00, then it's on auto. Okay, so to set this, the upper button, the middle button, until it stops blinking. Next, so we are done. Those are the settings that can be done on this controller. So why you want to do that? It's because you want to optimize charging of the battery bank. Yeah, so if there are any questions, you can always reach out and I'll be here. I'll be happy to help. Thank you so much. Have a good day.